Good afternoon, learners. Today we start about the course BECC 131. According to some economists have defined in many ways. Among them, Samuelson described economics with some points. According to Samuelson, according to Samuelson, societies and institutions and technology affect prices and the allocation of resources among different uses. And economical markets, including interest rates and stock prices. And economists examines the distribution of income and suggests ways that the poor can be helped without harming the performance of the economy. And economists studied the pattern of trade among nations and analyzed the impact of trade barriers. And also, it looks at growth in developing countries and proposes ways to encourage the efficient use of resources. And economists ask how government policies can be used to pursue important goals such as rapid economic growth, efficient use of resources, full employment, price stability, and a fair distribution of income. Among them, the common theme of the economics is to found that scarcity is a fact of life and that an efficient use of these scarce resources is to be found. It and it explains the behavior of different economic units, households, farms, government, and the economy as a whole when they are faced with scarcity. Then, what is the concept of scarcity or what is scarcity? Scarcity is an expression in two basic effects of economic life. First is unlimited wants and second scarce resources. Unlimited wants. We know that human wants are unlimited and it is keep on increasing. Different wants differ in their intensity. So, subject to the availability of resources, higher order wants need be satisfied first, and if the resources are still available, these may be used to satisfy lower order wants. Then scarce resources are means satisfaction of wants requires resources. Availability of resources is limited in relation to requirements. And scarce means have alternative uses so that the resources therefore need be allocated among different uses in a systematic coordinated manner. Every individual and economy has to devise a mechanism for this. So the means and wants can be combined alternative ways. The problem of scarcity exists in every society, irrespective of the levels of its development. Hence, it has to address itself of two issues. First, increasing the availability of means of satisfaction. Second, laying down the priorities of the wants to be satisfied. Then production. What do you mean by production? Production implies the transformation of various inputs into output, thereby increasing the satisfying capacity of the inputs. The process of production transforms the things occurring in nature into goods and services which are capable of satisfying human wants. The things which are so transferred are called inputs, while output is nothing but the transferred form of inputs. A particular transformation is production if the one satisfying capacity of the output is more than the of its input used. So the production is nothing but the creation of utility. There are also some central problems in economy. Economy has mainly three problems: what to produce, how to produce, or whom to produce. And economy does not have enough resources to produce everything required by it. So It must be selective and decide what to produce and what not to produce. When some goods are not produced, some wants of the society remain unsatisfied. The decisions regarding the wants to be satisfied and the goods and services to be produced are interrelated and are taken in a coordinated manner. Then how to produce? This is also a problem. How can be the allocation of productive resources in the production of various goods and services are allocated? So, the production process is two types. One is capital intensive, another is labor intensive. When capital is much more used, that is capital intensive technique, and when labor is more used in the sector, that is labor intensive technique. Then the producer always decide about the technique of production any particular product, consider the prices and productivity of alternative inputs. He try to use those inputs in a such a combination which costs him the least and will yields him the maximum output. The decision is also based on the two factors: the relative price of labor and capital, and the relative efficiency of the two inputs, labor and capital. Then, for whom to produce? A society comprises a large number of individuals and households, and all output of consumption goods and services is ultimately meant for their use. All goods and services produced are to be distributed among the individuals and households. The share of each individual and household has to be determined, and also the quantities of specific goods and services which comprise their share. The, then another two terms are used several times, that is private goods and public goods. What is private goods? There are certain goods whose availability can be restricted to selected individuals only. And the principles of exclusion is seen in the private goods. Those persons who cannot pay for the good or who are not ready to pay are not allowed to use this good is known as private good. Any goods which can be priced and which use can be restricted to selected person is termed as private good. Then public goods. When it is not possible to restrict the availability of a product to selected individuals, they are termed as public goods or social goods. Such goods cannot be priced to deprive some person from using it. For example, defense service is public service. Then merit goods. Those goods whose consumption is considered highly desirable for the members of the society are termed as merit goods. Health and education are called merit goods. Then PPC or production possibility curve. The economy has to choose between alternative combination of various goods and services. This can be shown in the production possibility curve, where the production possibility curve is nothing but a diagram which describes the different combinations of the inputs, and but the output is the same in each level. And these inputs can be, the combination of inputs can be shown on the PPC curve in page 14. 1 for 14 we can see, in the diagram we can see about this. Then any point beyond the PPC which is in the non-shaded area of the diagram shows a combinations of L and M which the economy cannot produce. Then some characteristics of PPC. PPC always downward sloping from left to right. That means it, in order to produce more units of one good, some units of the other good must be sacrificed. Then it is concave to the origin. A concave downward sloping curve has an increasing slope. The slope is the same as MRT. So concavity implies increasing MRT, marginal rate of technology. Each PP curve be a straight line? Yes. It when MRT is constant, that time PP curve is slope curve is straight line like demand curve. Then does production takes place only on the PP curve? Yes. Sometimes it is yes. Yes, if the given resources are fully and efficiently utilized. In some cases it is no, because if resources are underutilized or inefficiently utilized. Then economic methods. There is two methods, inductive and deductive method. In inductive method, the outcome in the case is predictable provided the assumptions made are satisfied. The assumptions themselves may be totally unrealistic or may be very close to reality, but they are stated in a precise manner. This type of reasoning is called deductive reasoning. In this method, the generalization or law is stated and the individual activities are expected to conform to it. Then there inductive method. In the inductive method, empirical information is collected and generalization regarding the behavior of economic units under different conditions are worked out. A, this is one example is Engel's law, where Engel concluded that as the income of a family increases, the proportion of its expenditure on necessity decreases, while that on comforts and luxuries goes up. Most business firms prefer this line of approach. Then equilibrium. The concept of equilibrium is a very important tool to analysis in economics. Equilibrium means a state of rest. That means the attainment of position from which those there is no incentive nor opportunity to move. A consumer is in equilibrium when his expenditure on different goods and services yield maximum satisfaction. And a business firm is in equilibrium when its resources and purchases and its output are such that it maximizes its profits. A research owner is in equilibrium when the resources which he owns are placed in their highest paying employment and the income of the resource owner is maximized. An economy is in equilibrium at the level of income where aggregate demand equals aggregate supply. So, equilibrium concept are important not because equilibrium is ever in fact attained, but because they show us the direction in which economic changes proceed. Then positive and normative economics. Positive economics is nothing else but it is a concept with only formulated economic laws and describing reality. They do not pass any judgment as to whether the finding of economy analysis are desirable or need to a modification. Normative economics realize the fact that an economy is never perfect. The outcome of its working can always be improved upon. It is quite normal to find an economy faced with many problems requiring immediate attention. Then microeconomics and macroeconomics. Micro and macro, these two words derived from the Greek. And micro means small, macro means large. Microeconomics deals with the behavior of individual elements in an economy, such as the determination of the price of a single product or the behavior of a single consumer or business firm. Whereas macroeconomics cover the great aggregates and averages of the economic system rather than individual terms. For example, it describes national income, employment, level of prices in general, in sectoral growth of goods and services, total saving and investments like that. Then another two words are shown, that is stocks and growth. Stocks. A stock variable is the one which can be measured only with a reference to a point of time. But flow variable is the one which can be measured only with a reference to a period of time, not a point of time. A per, and most of time, stock and flow variables are often used together in economic analysis. Then static and dynamics. Static and dynamic, these are also two concepts. In a static model, the variables are not dated. The demand supply model of market behavior is a static model. The model that demand depends on one price, supply depends on one price. With an equilibrium condition, the demand must equal supply. Time does not enter into the picture of at all, and the variables are all undated. But in a dynamic model would be one where the relevant variables are dated. Then demand. What do you mean by demand? Demand is mainly depend on the desire, and desire is just a wish on the part of the consumer to purchase a commodity. If the desire to purchase a commodity is backed by the purchasing power and the consumer is also willing to buy that commodity, it becomes want. The demand, on the other hand, is the wish of the consumer to get a definite quantity of a commodity at a given price in the market, is backed by a sufficient purchasing power. So, demand is depend on the three things. It is quantity which is desired to be purchased by the consumer, and second, quantity demand is always considered as a flow variable which is measurable over a period of time, and it is ability to pay also. What are the determination of demand? Determination of demand means which factors are affect the demand for a consumer. The demand is affected by some factors, that is like the price of the commodity, price of the related commodity, income of the consumers, and taste of the consumers. So demand function is the dx equal depend on the above factors. Dx equal to function of px, py, pz, m and t. Px the price of the dx the quantity demanded of x commodity, px the price of the x, pz is the price of the substitute goods, pz is the price of the complementary goods, m is the income, t is the price of the consumer. If all the factors influencing demand for the commodity X are evaluated very simultaneously, the picture would look highly complicated. So, when we describe anything, that time we always perceive that other things remaining constant, remaining equal. And what is the relationship between these factors with demand? Then first, price of the commodity. The price of the commodity has important influence on the quantity demanded by a consumer. That means when price increase, that time demand falls, and when price falls, demand
Madam,
increases. Then size of the consumer incomes. Then the consumer's income also influence the demand for a commodity. In cases where the increase in income of the consumer leads to an increase in the quantity demanded of the commodity, it is referred as normal goods. And sometimes, when at times an increase in the size of the income leads to a fall in the quantity demanded of the commodity. That times you see the situation possible when the commodity is or good is the inferior commodity. Price of other commodities. A consumer demand for a commodity is equally influence the prices of the commodity other than the commodity in question. So, in some cases, the demand for the commodity in question will increase as the price of the other commodity increases, while in other cases, the demand for the commodity will decrease as the price of the other commodity increases. Then, when first one is substitution effect and the other is complementary effect. Means in the case of demand for the commodity of a good will increase as the price of the other commodity increases is the substitution effect. Like the tea and coffee are example of substitution and car and petrol and are the examples of complementary goods. Then taste of consumers. The demand for a commodity is also influenced by the taste of the consumers. If a consumer has developed a taste for a particular commodity, he will demand more of that commodity. And if a consumer has changed his taste against a particular commodity, then he demand less of it, of that commodity. Then, then when we join, there is different types of consumer present in society. When you some literally summation of these demand curves of these consumers, then we get the market demand curve. And market demand curve can be affected, can be can be determined by two factors. First, size of the population and income distribution. All other factors remaining constant. The size of population increases, more of a commodity will be demanded. Then income distribution also a concept which can affect the market demand curve. So market demand and market demand can be influenced by the population and income distribution. Then law of demand. What is the law of demand? Law of demand, which is derived by Alfred Marshall. According to him, the when other things remaining constant means which factors infect which factors influence the demand. These other factors are remaining constant at the time. If price of the good commodity increases, then their demand is falls down. And if the price falls, then demand increases. That means the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded is the nothing else. It is law of demand. Then the law of demand can thus be stated as follows. Other things remaining equal. There are often inverse relationship between the price of a commodity and its quantity demanded. The demand schedule, with the help of a demand schedule, we can draw demand curve. Demand curve is a demand schedule can be present in the page number 29, where we see that when apple's price per kg is increasing, then the demand is quantity demanded decreases. At price 100 rupees, the demand is 15 kg. At price 200, demand is 12 kg. Like that, the prices increases, quantity demanded decreases. When we put these points in a graph diagram, we can find that the demand curve, and which is sloping downward to the right. The demand curve is a straight line or a curve depends on much and the quantity demanded rises with the fall of its price, or how much quantity income, how much quantity can be quantity demanded falls with the rise in the price of the commodity. So why does demand curve slope downwards? There is three factors which can affect the demand curve: substitution effect, income effect, and price effect. Substitution effect results from a change in the relative price of a commodity. Suppose a Pepsi-Con and a Coke can both prices 20. If the Pepsi-Con price, a Pepsi price is increased to 25, then what happen? Eh, The Pepsi will become the Coke is become relatively cheaper. Then all the absolute price of the Pepsi has not changed. The relative prices of Pepsi has gone down. Then the change in the relative price of commodity causes substitution effect. When the price of a commodity change, the effect is called substitution effect. This is the main reason for the consumer to buy more of the Pepsi rather than Coke. And it is shown as the here other things remaining unchanged. And this is shown as the substitution effect. Then income effect. Given the money income of the consumer, if the price of mango falls, the purchasing power of of that given money income increases, for which now his real income increases, thus he can buy more of the mangoes with the same money income, and then there is tendency for the demand for mango increases. And when the real income increases, that time what happens? The which goods price, which commodities price is falls, that thing is demanded more than the previously. The income effect is called as positive income effect. It is positive because there is a direct relationship between the income and the quantity demanded, and it is negative income effect when there in the that is the food is the inferior commodity, that time that is negative income effect. Then price effect. Price effect is the sum of the substitution effect and income effect. P equal to SC plus IE. Substitution effect always operates in a manner such that if as price falls, quantity demanded of this commodity increases. And given substitution effect, if income effect is negative, the law of demand can still apply provided the substitution effect outweighs or is more powerful than the negative income effect. Given given substitution effect, if income effect is negative, the law of demand will not apply provided negative income effect outweighs or is more powerful than the substitution effect. Then another term, given good. What is given good? A case where negative income effect shown outweighs given substitution effect is possible when we have given good. And given good named after the Robert Giffen, who first talked about such paradox. In case of given good, if all the fall in price of a commodity need need not lead to an increase in the quantity demanded of that commodity. On the other hand, a fall in the price of given good may result in a fall in demand for this good, but which is exceptional case of the law of demand. Then what is change in quantity demanded and change in demand? Change in quantity demanded. Whenever the demand for a commodity changes because of the change in the price of the commodity, it is called change in quantity demanded. And when the demand of the commodity changes because of the changes in factors other than price of the commodity, it is called change in demand. In case of the change in quantity demanded, the the point is shift to forward or upward, or when it is point is shift to and the along on this particular demand curve. And here in this diagram, and it is expansion or contraction of the demand curve is shown. But in case of the change in demand, the, the increase in demand takes place when at a given price, higher quantity is demanded, and at a higher price, the same quantity is demanded. And in the change in demand, the demand curve is shifted upward or downward. Increase in quantity demanded or shift in the demand curve to the right can be because of increase in money income of the consumer. As increase in money income of the consumer enables him to demand more of a commodity at a given price. But similarly, a decrease in quantity or shift in the demand curve to the left can be because of decrease in money income of the consumer. A rightward shift in the demand curve can take place because of increase in price of substitute goods and decrease in price if price of the complementary good. Then leftward shift in the demand curve can be because of decrease in price of substitutes or increase in the price of the complementary good. So in the change in demand curve shifts upward or downward. But in change in quantity demand, the demand points are expansion or contraction along with the same demand curve. Then what is elasticity of demand? The elasticity of demand is the responsiveness of dependent variable to a given change in an independent variable. Income of the consumer or prices of commodity other than the commodity in question. And elasticity measures the sensitivity of one variable to another. Elasticity, therefore, a percentage of proportionate change in the dependent variable to a given percentage of proportional change in the independent variable. So, there price elasticity of demand, income elasticity demand, and cross elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand, this means is a measure of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a commodity to a change in the price of the commodity. This case being measured as the proportional change in quantity demanded of a commodity divided by the proportional percentage change of the price of the commodity. Then price, then the elasticity of price can be other as known as EP equal to delta Q by Q into P by delta P. Here, the price elasticity, if price elasticity or EP equal to 0, this happens when the quantity demanded does not change at all with a change in the price of the commodity. That means the quantity demanded is constant, which is parallel to OY axis, and it at the time the elasticity demand is the in a straight line which parallel to OY axis price. Then EP greater than 0 but less than 1, the value is obtained when the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price. The type of the demand curve is not less than unit elastic. Then EP equal to 1. This value is obtained when the percentage change in quantity demanded equals the percentage change in price. This type of schedule is equal to unit elastic. Then EP is more than 1. This type of elasticity of demand is obtained when the percentage change in quantity demanded is more than the percentage change in the price of the commodity. It is called as more than unit elastic demand. EP equal to infinity. This type of elasticity of demand obtains when a small change in price results in infinite changes in quantity demanded. In that case, it is parallel to OX axis, and which is horizontal straight line. Then income elasticity. Income elasticity of demand refers to percentage change in the quantity demanded resulting from percentage increase in income. Income elasticity of demand is the responsiveness of quantity demanded of a commodity to a change in income of the consumer. It can be measured as the proportional change in quantity demanded of a commodity divided by the proportional change in the income of the consumer. Then EI, or elasticity of income, elasticity of demand, equal to delta Q by delta Y into Y by Q. Then price cross elasticity of demand. Price cross elasticity of demand refers to percentage change in the quantity demanded of one resulting from some percent increase in the price of another. That means the cross elasticity of demand is the responsiveness of quantity demanded of the given commodity to a change in the price of a related goods. The good may be substitute or complemented. It can be measured as proportional percentage change in the quantity demanded of a commodity. E QX PY equal to proportional change in quantity demanded of the commodity X by proportional change in the price of the commodity Y. Or delta QX by delta PY into PY by QX. And if cross elasticity coefficient between two commodities is positive, the two commodities are substitutes. And if cross elasticity coefficient between two commodities is negative, the two commodities are complementary goods. Then measurement of price elasticity of demand. There is point method. Point method is the percentage method. The main point to be that is, it is employed only when the changes in price and quantity demand are very small. Total expenditure method. The otherwise known as the total outlay method. It is measured price elasticity of demand. It is used whenever the changes in price and demand are not small. It cannot help us to find out the coefficient of price elasticity of demand. It only helps us to distinguish this equation, whether the price elasticity of demand is one or unity, whether the price elasticity of demand is more than one or more than unity, whether the price elasticity of demand is less than one or unity. This method is only told these three situations. Then geometrical method. According to this method, elasticity of demand is different at different points on a given demand curve and is measured as follows on any point of straight line curve. At that time, EP equal to lower segment of the demand curve by upper segment of the demand curve. When it at the middle of the demand curve, EP equal to 1, and at the upper segment, it is more than 1. At the point of y-axis and A, that is infinity. And when it is intersect the O-axis, the demand curve when intersect the O-axis, that is if elasticity of demand, price elasticity equal to 0. And it in lower segment, it is EP is less than 1. And which factors affect influence the price elasticity of demand? There is some factors. The nature of commodity. The nature of commodity also affect the price elasticity of demand. There is three types of commodity: necessities, comforts, and luxuries. If the commodity happens to be a necessity, price elasticity of demand will be less. Even if the price of wheat rises, people will not be able to reduce much the quantity demanded of wheat, and therefore the demand for wheat is relatively less elasticity. In the case of comfort, the change in price makes the consumer changes the quantity demanded relatively more, so it is more elastic. In case of the luxurious, since they are purchased by people who have higher income, the demand does not change much with the change in price, thus tend to be less price elasticity. The number of substitutes. If a commodity has alternative uses, then Commodity with few and poor substitutes like wheat and salt will always tend to have low price elasticity of demand. Commodity with many substitutes are will have relatively high price elasticity of demand. Number of uses of a commodity. The greater the number of possible uses of a commodity, the greater its price elasticity of demand will be. Thus, a commodity which have number of uses, then the price elasticity is more. Then price level of a commodity. The level of price will also have an important on price elasticity of demand. A commodity like a box of matches which has a very low price will have less price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity is important some economic value, like price fixation by a monopolist, price support program of the government, and incidence of indirect taxes. The monopolist is always interested in charging a higher price from the consumer. At that time, this price elasticity is very useful for him. He would be put up a higher price for the commodity when the price of demand of the commodity is low. He would not be able to change a very high price for a commodity which price elasticity of demand is relatively higher. Price support the government. Normally, the price elasticity of demand of agricultural commodities like wheat, rice, etc. is relatively less. This implies that a given increase in supplies because of better monsoon will lead to a relatively more fall in price. This would reduce the income of the farmer. In that case, the government, in order to protect the interest of the farmers, can announce what is called price support program. Then incidence of indirect taxes. A government imposes indirect taxes on the commodity. Whenever an indirect tax is imposed, the burden of this tax is borne partly by the consumer and partly by the producer himself. The share of burden of an indirect tax borne by the consumer and the producer depends upon the elasticity of demand. So, the elasticity of demand also important in the economic situation of economic to derive the economic condition for the country also. Then what is supply? Supply refers to the quantity of a commodity that producers are willing to produce and sell at different prices per unit of time. Supply of a commodity is stated in quantitative terms as the offered quantities. The supply of commodity always with reference to the price at which that supply quantity is supplied. The supply is always measured as a unit flow factor, and supply is a flow factor, and it is with reference to a unit of time, which may be day, week, or fortnight, or month, or a year. So, finally, supply of a commodity refers to the quantity that a producer is willing to sell at different prices. Then, what are the determinants of supply? Price of the commodity supplied. The price of a commodity is determined by the forces of demand and supply. Any change in the price of a commodity exerts an influence on the supply of that commodity. Generally, we know that the higher the price of a commodity, the more profitable it will be to be producer, or that time supply is more. And there, price and supply have a direct relationship, and it is otherwise known as law of supply. Then prices of factors of production or cost of production. A rise in the prices of factors of production raises its cost of production. That means lower profits assuming that receipts from sales remain unchanged. A rise in cost of production of a commodity discourages the production or supply of that commodity. So, prices of other goods, other things remaining unchanged. The supply and production of a commodity will fall if the prices of other commodity rises and vice versa. This happens because normally a producer chooses that commodity for production which earns him the highest profits. Then state of technology. The state of technology or knowledge changes over time, and along with that, the methods employed to produce a commodity also undergo a change. The increase in the knowledge about the means of production and the methods of production lead to lower costs of production of goods. Then goals of the producer. The objectives or behavior of the producer also influence the production. This the goal of the producer may be maximize total profits or to maximize sales or to capture the market in the long run. And these goals are affect the supply of a good. Then other factors. There can be many other factors influence supplies. Some factors are government policy, fear of war, unexpected climatic conditions, expected change in prices, growing inequalities of income influence the demand of a particular type of goods, hence making them more profitable to produce. Then the law of supply. What is the law of supply? This determines remaining constant. If the price of a commodity is increases, then the price of a commodity increases, the supply also increases. If the price of commodity decreases, then the supply also decreases. The price and supply have a direct relationship. The law of supply states that the price of a commodity increases, the quantity supplied per unit of time of that commodity also increases. And if the price of a commodity decreases, the quantity supplied per unit of time of that commodity also decreases. Here, assuming all other factors influencing supply remains constant. The supply function. But the supply function is the expression of the various factors affecting quantity supplied of the commodity. Thus, Q is equal to function of Py, P2, P3 and Pn, then Fy, Fi, Fn, Pge. P1 is the price of that commodity, P2, P3 and Pn are the prices of all other commodities. F1 and Fn are the prices of all factors of production. T is the state of technology. G is the goal of producer. And EI is the influencing other factors influencing supply. Then the supply schedule. A supply schedule shows different prices of a commodity and the quantity which a producer is willing to supply per unit of time at each price, assuming other things influencing the supply to be constant. It can be described on the page 53. Demand, we see the supply schedule. Here, supply schedule, when the price is rupees 2, then the quantity supply is 25 per month, 25,000 per month. When price is increased to price of the per pen increased to 3, then what happens? The quantity supply per month is 40,000. As the prices increases, the quantity supplied also increases. And when we put these supply schedules points in diagram, we find the supply curve, which is sloping upward to the right. When we plotted these points, we find this supply curve. But there is some exception case in the law of supply. First, non-maximizing of profit. In some cases, the entrepreneur may not be pursuing the goal of maximization of profits. That time, the law of supply cannot be worked. And some factors other than price not remaining constant. If the other factors are not remaining constant, then time also the law of supply cannot be worked. Then changes in supply and changes in quantity supply, like demand supply, like changes in demand and changes in quantity demand. This supply also described. When the price changes in the quantity demanded, quantity offered for sale on account of a change in the price of the commodity only, assuming all other factors to be constant. The change in quantity supply can be of two types: when the price of a commodity falls and its quantity supplied falls, provided the law of supply applies. It is contraction of supply. When the rise in the price of a commodity, its quantity supply rises, provided the law of supply applies. That is extension of supply. It can be shown only along the same supply curve. Here, the extension of supply is the above the equilibrium point, and contraction of the supply is the below the equilibrium point. Then change in supply. Change in supply, if production of a commodity undergoes a change because of factors other than price of the commodity change. Change in supply also two types: a decrease in supply and increase in supply. When the quantity of a commodity supplied falls at the same price, it is referred to as decrease in supply. If represented in the form of curve, it implies leftward shift of the supply curve, and an increase in supply. When the quantity of a commodity supplied increases at the same price, it is known as the increase in supply. This amount to a rightward shift in the supply curve. Here, the supply curve shift to leftward or rightward. So, today class is over. If there is any doubt, you ask. If there is any doubt, then okay then. Tomorrow we continue this chapter. Thank you.